Great. Perfect. Hi, everyone.
Hey, hi guys.
Hi. So thank you so much for coming in on board. And yeah, the inaugural session for Global Travel Meet, discerning post-pandemic scenario in COVID-prone and COVID-free nations. So once again, welcome to everyone in the panel here. Hi, Kiran. Hi, Snehal. Hi, Steve. Hi, Nishchal. Thank you so much, guys, for joining in. Thank you so much. So I'll quickly start off with the panel, and the first thing I just would ask that if you guys can introduce yourself and one thing you love about travel the most. So it would be really good. Kiran, we can start with you. Yeah.
Hi, good morning, everyone. So I take care of the MICE business for Dubai Tourism in India. So we handle the MICE and weddings portfolio for Dubai in India. And I've been in the sector now for a good 15, 16 years. That's one of the hats I wear. We're also building one of the first travel training apps in India, so for the travel trade. So a lot of the travel trade will hear about that soon. And we're also working on an OTA for cruises. So a lot of different stuff happening in the travel domain, which I've now been part of the last 15, 16 years. So absolutely, I love this space. And the thing I love about this space really is the fact that it opens up your mind to so many new ideas. You meet people from around the world. And I think that's really, really fabulous.
Thank you so much. Nishchal, how about you?
Yeah, I think so. After each person introduces themselves, it's going to get more and more difficult to introduce why you love travel, but I'll take a shot at it. So quickly about me, I'm the director of marketing at Airmeet. So this is the platform that you guys are using. If any feedback, you let me know. Why, and what I think about travel. So for me, travel has always been a very organic part of my life. So, coming from an army background, we were traveling on a continuous basis, so it never felt like an additional activity. But over the last decade or so, travel for me has become like this adventurous experience, which is more about going, learning something and bringing it back home, right? So it's not so much as about going to a new place, it's about bringing something new back home. And that's a very slight shift in how I've started thinking about travel over the last few years, right? So and especially for the better part of the last 5 or 6 years, I've been a digital nomad. I've been working remotely. I've been a remote work evangelist to the extent that we've written a short 100-page book on it as well, on how to work remotely. And if you are remote work enabled, then the world is open to you, because then it doesn't matter whether you're traveling for a day or a week or a month or a year. Now you can be wherever you want, however you want, because your work travels with you. So as a remote work evangelist, I've been very much sort of like a proponent of slow form of travel that doesn't really counts as a vacation where you just go for a week or weekend. It's more about an experiential activity where you could probably go and live somewhere for a longer period of time. So that's me.
Perfect. Snehal, you wanna go next?
Hey, hi Aditya, hi everyone. So yeah, at Zoliday, we are building the first corporate travel automation platform to unlock your hidden savings. Now, most of the companies still manage their corporate travel using emails and offline agents, and that basically leads to a very elongated time to approve and time to book. So at Zoliday, our technology basically minimizes that time. It reduces that time by 80% using various price prediction alerts and smart approvals. So which actually leads to a 14% in savings for the company. So that's what we do. And what excites me about travel is learning something new. So I'm a very big proponent of learning something new every day. So I mean, travel is just like a crash course where you actually learn about new places, learn about new people, how to actually interact and understand and dispute situations. So that's what gets me more excited about travel. Great.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining the panel. Steve, would you like to go next from London, 5 in the morning?
Good morning, everyone. If I start stumbling over my words, I haven't obviously had enough coffee this morning, but this felt like a good reason to get up early. So I've been in London for the last 2 years. I've been working with one of the largest real estate companies and developers in the country, and working on a kind of a community space here for companies that are coming in from all over the world. Before that, I started something called Hubud, which is a co-working space in Bali, which was probably one of the first destination co-working spaces in the world, I suppose. So we've been very involved in the digital nomad movement. since 2012. So I'm very passionate about that. And, there's something great about being able to take your work with you. There's something terrible about being able to take your work with you. So it's an interesting, complicated space, the remote work, but definitely travel, I guess the thing that I like the most, what keeps me coming back, I've lived in 12 countries and traveled through kind of 60 or 70. It's definitely the people, and I think by default they're creative and they're dreamers. And I think when you're in that space of traveling and you've kind of taken yourself out of your own life, then all kinds of things are possible in terms of having perspective, having new ideas, and having a chance to reinvent yourself every time. So, yes, happy to be here, coffee or not.
Thank you so much for joining in. I'll quickly just briefly introduce myself. Aditya Dave here. I run a company called Laari, where we basically redefine the way street food is being out there. So we create spaces which are smart street food cart enabled, especially looking forward to tourism in here. So in India and in US, we operate in both of the spaces, and pretty much running the company for past 1.5 years. So that's pretty much about me. And for me, travel is it's just like a meditation. It helps me refresh. It helps me gain energy. So that's pretty much about it. So thank you so much again. And let's start to first question. We'll be coming back in between for a little bit ice breaking and kind of thing. So first question is that what are the COVID free and COVID prone nations doing to ensure safety and boost tourism all around? So Kiran, if you would like to start with about your views.
Sure. So, actually, Aditya, just to answer that question, first, let's understand that there is nothing called COVID-free at the moment, right? Everyone's COVID-prone. I don't think anyone can run away from this scenario at this point in time. We all have to deal with it the way it is. Now, naturally, every country then is doing a fair bit of work in trying to protect not just the tourists that come in, but first and foremost protects its own residents, right? So let's say, for example, at Dubai, we've opened ourselves to tourism somewhere in mid-April. We started opening our offices. Malls are now open in Dubai. All the attractions are open. Hotels are open. We are pretty much open to all kind of tourists coming in. Visas are ready. IPL's coming to Dubai. Film crews are shooting in Dubai as we speak. So we've opened ourselves to the world in terms of them coming in. But at the same time, we've done that after ensuring that whoever comes in doesn't hurt our local residents, locals and residents, and at the same time that whoever comes in doesn't get infected there as well, right? So the idea is to make sure that you take enough precautions and safely reopen in terms of ensuring that business can go on for pretty much anyone and everyone. At the same time, while tourists were allowed to come into Dubai for the last since 7th of July, excuse me. We're also soon about to announce our event policies, which means that we'll also open ourselves to social events, business events, etc. pretty soon. We are quite confident that what has changed, though, is personal space will change. I was just reading somewhere, personal space around the world ranges from around 0.4 meters, 0.2 meters, 0.5 meters in different countries. In Dubai, we've defined, in the current scenario, your personal space needs to be 2 meters. So even if you're doing an event anywhere, as long as you have 2 meters between all attendees or 4 square meters per person in terms of the venue, you're open to run. So I think there is nothing called COVID-free or COVID-prone. I think everyone just has to live with the reality until the vaccine really comes out.
Definitely. That's an interesting point of view, and good to learn about the personal space scenario as well. Great. Nishchal, you would like to go next?
Yep. Absolutely. So, completely agree with Kiran that there's no such thing as COVID-free or COVID immune, right? So, no person, no country, no place like that right now. I feel it's all going to come down to the whole perspective of social distancing. So, if you're able to find a place where the population density is low, where connectivity is good, good healthcare is also available, then those places would probably be the first to see a wave of new tourists or new tourism coming in. And it's also something that's going to be an experiment environment in terms of whether that new wave works or not, or whether these countries are going to accept it or not. So I've been reading something about how places like some remote islands in Asia Pacific and countries like New Zealand, some smaller Eastern European countries, they're at a point where the population density is low enough for them to have effective social distancing. Good healthcare is available, connectivity is good. So as we see the first wave of tourism coming back, travel coming back, we'll see a lot of people flocking to these countries and these areas. But it's yet to be seen whether that impacts these regions in a negative fashion, because if you get a sudden influx of people from different places, it could just be the exact opposite situation. And the second thing is whether these countries and these destinations are even open to accepting tourists, because of course there's the balancing act of economic benefit versus the healthcare aspect of it. So it's yet to be seen. I don't want to probably comment too much on it, but these are the factors that I know will be in play.
That makes a lot of sense. Snehal, your point of views?
Yeah, so one thing the governments are doing very nice, I would say, is basically using technology to update all the travel advisories on their embassy sites. And we, as a platform, have connected to all these embassy sites, and you have been collecting advisories. Now, like what might happen in future is, the travel might be restricted to certain places, or a certain advisory would be announced. But to propagate that information might take time. But with APIs, it would happen instantly. And we have built this travel safety console where all the advisories would be listed, and the company could basically see now the travel to, let's say, Britain, or let's say travel to Delhi has been restricted, and they can basically take action immediately on the travels, on the existing trips. So that's what might happen in the future is the travel might on and off basically over time, but with technology, since it's connected, people will be updated very soon. So we have to adapt to the situation, and that's what everyone has to do now.
Makes a lot of sense. Steve, your point of views for the same?
Yeah, I think I'd follow up on that comment as well. I mean, from what I'm seeing in Europe, I would say the main thing that the governments are doing, or the countries are doing at a national or regional level, is trying to institutionalize an effective level of flexibility and kind of reactivity. So, travel bans, initially it was just kind of this blanket everywhere and everyone. Obviously, that's very undesirable for not just travel, but for a lot of other kind of economic industries and implications. So being able to be a lot more dynamic in their responses. So kind of taking countries on or off lists, taking certain regions of countries on or off lists as testing becomes more widespread. I think for me, the role of certainly of government or authorities in general is to instill a sense of confidence. Because right now, there's not confidence for people, right? There's not confidence that they're going to go somewhere and be safe, but I think there's also not confidence that they're going to buy a ticket and that ticket is going to be honored if something happens and the travel advisories change. So I think there might be something in there for a role for authorities to work with, airlines or travel providers to ensure there's some sort of protection. So I think that's what people need, confidence to put in this plan.
Makes a lot of sense. Thank you so much for everyone's input. Also, to the people seeing this live, if you would have any questions, we'd be very happy to take questions the meantime we run. And if not, we can take questions later as well. But you having any questions, please shoot it on the live chat. Super happy to answer them by our panelist. So yeah, I have a very interesting next question for you guys, which I am sure may be asked to you a lot of times. I would like to know your perspective on the same. So what do you think for travel? How is the new normal going to look like? Kiran, you'd like to go first?
So that's that's a hard one, right? I mean, we really don't know how things are going to evolve, but let's look at two scenarios, right? Let's look at the current scenario where, to a large extent, COVID is stabilizing around the world. Stabilizing. We don't know if there's going to be a second wave, how things are going to evolve, but we don't know. But looking at things the way they are right now, and there's definitely a lot of talk of a vaccine coming out. So I would like to define two eras really. One is a pre-vaccine era and a post-vaccine era. right? These are two scenarios that you really want to look at as possibilities. I think in the current era, till a vaccine comes out, there are three key considerations that any traveler is having in his mind. Number one, what's the risk? And when I say risk, I mean the health and safety risk, right? So where am I traveling? Is there enough precautions and safety being taken care of when I get there? Will I be safe? Will I be infected? Am I putting myself at risk? The second question, and a lot of hotels have responded to this question really, really well, is what is the financial risk, right? What are the cancellation policies? Can I cancel 24 hours prior to travel and get a full refund? Am I getting a refund, or am I getting a future credit, for example? Is my money being blocked? So what's the financial risk? And that's becoming suddenly a very, very important question. The third point that you want to bear in mind also is, especially when it comes to corporate travel, for example, is they're all starting at zero right now. Everyone's working from home. Business travel is stopped. So any new travel will be evaluated from a perspective of, is it essential? And it's being compared to a zero base, right? So that's the next consideration that's going to come in. How essential or important is that piece of travel going to be? And the fourth question, especially when you talk about leisure, is or business, is will I still have fun? Is it still important? Is it still relevant? Is my experience on destination going to be affected? Am I going to feel like I'm in a hospital when I'm traveling out? So all of these are considerations that are going to affect our decision making at this point in time. Of course, there's a lot of pent up demand for us to travel. There's no doubt about that. But all of that pent up demand is going to be tempered by, I think, a combination of these factors as well.
Makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. Thank you so much. Yeah. Nishchal, how do you feel about a new normal being like?
Honestly, I had the exact 100% the same feelings that Kiran just shared. So I'll probably just sort of summarize and rephrase that. I feel four major things happening. So one thing is that I feel that this is going to be a permanent shift. If I don't want to be the party pooper, but if anyone is expecting things to go back to the pre-COVID era normality within a year or so, I don't feel that's going to happen anytime soon. I feel this is going to be with us for a long time. Not just COVID as a problem or a issue, but also the impact that's going to have largely on the sector, and more importantly on the way we think and the way we perceive things, right? So if we are expecting things to go back to the same thing earlier, it's not going to happen that soon. And there are four things that I see that could probably have an impact, and this is probably just a rephrase of what Kiran shared. There's of course the emotional angle here. There's always going to be this subconscious load when I'm traveling, when I'm going out on a vacation or something. It's going to be less fun. It's going to be less exciting. There's always going to be this healthcare concern at the back of my head, right? So there's this going to be emotional load that people are going to carry with themselves. So it's not going to be as carefree or as fun as it used to be. The whole concept of rights and responsibilities will change entirely. Let's be honest, so far tourists and people who are spending money going to a new destination sort of enjoyed a lot of rights with very limited responsibilities, right? We've seen a lot of scenarios where companies roll out the red carpets for tourists during the right season, and that might just change entirely, because a lot of countries, a lot of destinations are now saying probably limited in limited capacity no to incoming tourists. And on the other hand, they're adding more and more responsibilities onto the tourists themselves, that if you want to come here, these are the 10 things you need to follow, right? So because of those added responsibilities and the changing rights, it's also going to have a financial impact. Financial impact across the board, like Kiran shared, hotel cancellation policy is one angle to it. More expensive flight tickets is the second angle. We've also got areas where probably because of social distancing, tickets might get more expensive. If you go to a theme park, instead of getting 1,000 people into the theme park every day, they might only accept 100 people, and that will change the entire cost structure. So it's going to get more and more expensive as well. Regulatory concerns are going to be a big thing. So there will be restrictions, there will be more checkups, there will be more face masks, there'll be a lot more regulatory issues that you have to follow to go through the entire process. So it's not going to be the same carefree exercise you used to do, right? Where you can't just put on your shorts and go on a vacation anymore. It's going to be a whole lot of preparation. And more importantly, for a lot of people who are attending this right now, the important thing to accept right now is that the patterns are going to change completely. Whatever we knew about the travel industry, the traditional routes, destinations, to-dos, formats, these might change completely, right? So I'm not saying that they will change 100%, but to a huge extent that it's going to have a huge impact on whatever understanding was. So if I had a business that was built on a certain understanding of the past 20 years, it's possible that that understanding and that underlayer underlying foundation might change completely. So we need to be prepared for that scenario. We need to be prepared that what happens if my travel business, if my entire understanding of the industry changes 180 degrees or 60 degrees, right? So what happens then? Should be prepared for that as the new normal. No one knows what the new normal is. We do know that there are these 4 or 5 concerns, including the emotional baggage that people will carry with themselves, the changing rights and responsibilities, financial impact, more importantly, the regulatory issues that will crop up. But all of that really means one thing. Whatever your understanding is so far, it might change completely. So be prepared for 100% change in whatever you're doing right now. So that I think is the new normal. The new normal is something we don't even understand.
That's quite interesting and elaborative answer. That's pretty good. Yes, Snehal, what's your take on it?
Yeah, so from a corporate travel perspective, see, earlier companies used to generally evaluate corporate travel on the basis of savings, or booking tickets and approvals and policies. They used to define it on the basis of savings and the cost or the budget and things like that. Now, safety is going to be a very core component of that, right? And that's one major change. And the second major change is, a lot of times companies would let the employees, let's say, book travel for business, and that might change because now the companies would like to monitor what are the live trips that are happening, and then basically in case if any employee needs any help, they should be immediately send an SMS or an SOS. The companies would want to restrict or ban travel to certain places, and that is only possible if they use a centralized system, right? They would like to see get the travel history of employees in one go. So they, let's say if something happened in some part of the world, they would like to see who all actually went there so that they can actually check on the quarantine bit, right? And one last major thing which I feel might happen is, so when the COVID actually struck us, there were a lot of cancellations and things which happened, right? And it was just troublesome for managing all those rescheduling and cancellations, and when actually done manually. So probably companies will evolve some system, through a centralized system or through their own processes to manage cancellations very quickly and do mass cancellations and things like that. So companies need to be prepared for that. So I guess all those things will be deliberated now.
Makes a lot of sense. True. That does. Steve, how's your take on the same?
I think, I don't want to repeat too much, and definitely there's some overlap in what I'm thinking or seeing and what's been said already. I do like the idea of rights and responsibilities. I think for me, 2 thoughts came into my mind when you asked this question. One is around corporate travel. I think will be hit hard for a long time because I do think a lot of this is about managing risk. It's also about managing, as I said earlier, confidence, right? And how much confidence people have. And so if somebody wants to take a trip for their own personal reasons, they themselves have to have confidence and make that decision. If a company is sending their people all over the place, there's kind of 2 levels that have to be managed. One is the individual employees and their feeling of confidence in their company sending them around the world. I think for a lot of people, they will not feel comfortable with that until things change. And the second thing is liability for the company point of view as well. If they're sending people around and they're getting sick, or if they're sending people out that are then coming back, they're putting kind of at a corporate level themselves at a much greater risk of kind of localized outbreaks. I think the very kind of carefree, to use Nichol's word, but just the almost careless way we've traveled for so long, right? We're not a thought. I've left my house before with no bag at all. Literally, I just thought it was like, hey, we can go, and that I don't know that will ever come back, or at least not for quite some time. I think the idea of slow travel, long trips, taking, because you can take your work with you, and I think that I think millions of people are not necessarily going to want to go back to working the way they were working pre-COVID, right? So I think that's an important element to this as well. So I think people will have the ability to travel longer in ways, because if they are able to work from home or work from anywhere, I think that will factor in. So there'll be less of a separation between now I work, now I travel. And we've been seeing this certainly in the digital nomad space for a long time, but I think that's going to get much more into the general population. I'll just add that.
That does make a lot of sense. Also, I like if before I move to my next question, I have a couple of questions from audience. I maybe like Nishchal answered one of them in the chat, so it's good to see you guys active there as well. So I have a couple of questions. I'll take questions from Shashi Mauli from Indian Institute of Tourism and Travel Management first. So the question is that as a budding entrepreneurs, tourism professionals, what would be the future during COVID as passing out from a institute which is all about tourism and travel management and entering the industry? So what would they do? So Snehal, you would like to go on it first?
Yeah, so see, again, I think this is a very transformational moment. So if you are like, this is like a problem solving moment for all of us. So we need to figure out, new solutions out there, which places are open, how safe are they? So if I can probably see it in a dashboard that, the cases are low here, it's safer, so many people are traveling. So I mean, just to give an example, I saw a video of someone actually traveling through Rome recently, and people were there were long queues. People were actually booking tickets via a mobile app and thing like that, so that they accept the norm of social distancing and things like that. So all those things actually provide new opportunities, and I think we should probably try to learn new ways to solve the existing problem rather than go by textbook. So that's my
Makes a lot of sense. Steve, how about you?
I think ultimately entrepreneurial endeavors are about solving problems faster or better than somebody else, or providing better solutions than somebody else. And I think there are a lot of solutions required right now. So this is a frightening and uncertain time, but that's where fortunes are made from a financial point of view. And I think there's an opportunity here to move more quickly than established players, because if you are very heavily invested in a certain kind of structure, it's much more difficult, risky, etc. In terms of changing and being adaptable. So starting with a blank slate, I think is not a bad thing. So just kind of look, and I mean, the question of what does the new normal look like? Of course, nobody is sure, but I think you could take a shot at that, and then be preparing a solution that's part of what that new normal is going to require.
Makes a lot. So I just like for Nishchal, I have a counter question to you based on the answer you put it out in the chat. It's like you're like putting out solutions and maybe charge a bit premium for the same. So in this growing economy, how would people balance safety with pricing? So like what is going to be priority? Is premium, paying a premium, or safety? Like what do you think on the same?
Okay, so short answer, there's no real magic sauce to anything, right? In business, you always have to identify which target audience you're going after, which product you're going after, what services you're offering, and where that sits on the overall price point. That's really what it means. There's no answer on do this, you'll make good money. Do that, your career is safe, right? Let me take a step back and talk a little bit about the 2008 recession, right? So when that happened, a lot of people who were doing certain jobs for a better part of 5, 10, 20 years, for them, it was a major disastrous change, because now they were all of a sudden not sure what to do next. They knew one thing that they could do really well, but 2008 came, they're out of their jobs and they don't know how to do that thing anymore because the job doesn't exist. And for them to reinvent themselves was very difficult, right? Now, what I see in the attendees is we have a lot of people who are either studying right now in different universities or just about to graduate. Now, for them, I don't want to say that it's a good opportunity that this kind of a thing happen. I want to say, think of the bright side, think of the silver lining here. The silver lining is, instead of going into a saturated industry where hundreds of thousands of people are already doing something that they do well, you are now going to be entering an industry where no one knows what to do. So you are at the same level as people who probably have 5 or 10 or 20 years of experience. Now, I know that might sound disrespectful to the other side of people, but this is for the students out there. That you can always find newer opportunities, you can always find newer products or services that you can upsell, and that upsell will actually help you find the business model that no one is able to crack right now. Now, about balancing, the question that you asked about balancing the safety, the cost of safety versus other things, you always have to find a way, right? So and I'm going to come to the answer as well. I'm not just saying it for the heck of it. When I say you find a way, what it really means is just assume that there is going to be an answer. Either you find the answer or the other person would. And when they find the answer, you'll always think, oh, why didn't I find that answer, right? So there's always going to be an answer. The short answer here is, if the cost of safety is going up, isn't the cost of travel and destination experience also coming down? Because there's lower demand over there, right? So hotels might be willing to extend you more discount. Hotels might be willing to extend you added benefits like sort of like experiential activities bundled with your hotel room. You can also probably look at getting more people on board with the same price point. So there will be opportunities here and there. Certain service cost will go up, but certain other service costs will also come down. At the same time, think of it like this. Tourism and travel was always an aspirational thing to do. So depending on which segment of the population you're targeting, you are either looking at budget travelers or you are looking at the big fat family vacation travelers, right? Now, budget travelers may, the way I would try to attract a budget traveler now is by telling them, in the same budget that you had earlier, I can now give you a more premium experience. Why premium? Because costs on the other side are now lower. For the big fat family vacation, I can tell them, sorry, boss, your cost is going to go up by 30%, but I'm going to add 100% more security and safety to it. They would be okay with it, right? So you have to decide which target you're going after. What is their moving pointer? What is it that drives them the most? What is their motivational factor? And then sort of like work towards that. So I'm not saying that there's a magic sauce or there's a secret weapon that you can use and it'll secure everything. All I'm saying is there's always going to be a way. You just have to think of what is it that's going to drive it forward.
Makes a lot of sense. That's true. Great. So I'll move on to my next question, and then again we'll be taking a couple of audience questions. So yeah, like till now, people have traveled a lot for business meetings. Like whenever even if I had a small thing to get done, I'll just travel to that particular city, see the products, and get it done. So that travel was quite high. But now it has not clearly transformed. Like I don't have the same product seeing experience in Google Meets or Zoom Meets anywhere else. So what do you think? Will this get back to old normal? Will people be traveling as much for business meetings or not?
Yeah.
Yes, who would like to jump in on that? Yes, Steve, you can start it.
Okay, will do. No, I don't think so. I mean, not for the foreseeable future. So the kind of end of the business I've been working on here in London for the last couple of years has had to do with meetings and events as part of it. And London is a kind of a great example of that. You have people coming in and out all around. I mean, from all over the world every single day. Obviously, that has squeezed down to a trickle. I think the case for getting on a plane will have to be much more compelling than it was before, because you're right, you wouldn't think anything of, both flight prices being so low as they have been over the last many years, and that kind of mental barrier, or so there's an expectation that it's like, well, if you're serious, come and see it. And so now I think tools like this on Airmeet, obviously everybody's been spending tons of time on platforms like Zoom and Google Talk and things. None of them are perfect, but they're all getting a lot better, and I think we are getting better at using them. So I think it's a little bit like saying, you can't have a good retail experience unless you go to a store, and I think that's just not true. There are certain things you want to go and touch and feel, and there's certain reasons why I'll travel across the city to go to have that retail touch experience. But the truth is, for an awful lot of it, I have gotten used to shopping online. And a lot of the pain points of shopping online have been removed, so easy returns, self-addressed, all that kind of stuff. And so now it's very much a part of my life. So I think there's like a consumer almost education point in terms of using platforms like this and making them do things that we didn't do with them before because we would just go and have that in-person meeting. So I think there's going to be, obviously a huge role for tech on this side of it, enabling that immersive, more connected communication. But I think it's also people's habits and expectations are going to shift and change along with it.
That's true. Snehal, what's your take on it?
Yeah. So see, let's say as the businesses and shops are opening up now, once the travel gets a bit more safer, right? I think business travel will start resuming mainly from the SMB side first and then the enterprise side. Now, what might actually happen is that business meetings generally, either are used to be transactional in nature or used to be for relationship building. So if all the transactional sort of business meetings would probably would move over to, let's say, Airmeet and Zoom, but the business meetings, right, where a sort of relationship bit was involved, relationship building bit was involved, this is just very difficult to replicate in a virtual manner. It needs, let's say, for things like sales or relationship management or even hiring per se, right, it's just too difficult to do it at scale, right? You might just do few hirings over Airmeet or over Zoom, but at scale, if you have to do, in-person meeting actually makes more sense, right? So certain things like, let's say, for training might also again move to Zoom. That's what I feel. And let's say store audits and things like that. So those things a part of it might move over to Zoom, but a lot of people, let's say, a retail company, right? Not where a lot of store managers and, let's say, caretakers are there, they are not that tech savvy. So it becomes very unfeasible. That's what our customers have realized. So they also want to actually, want the things to become normal, but in a much safer way. So a part of it might move over to Zoom, where transactional bit was more there, but where in person or relationship bit is involved, it might take some time, but it will eventually come over back. So
that makes a lot of sense, and that is the truth, because that is what is happening in some of the industries where practically, like, people who are working at end force, whom you have to travel with, not that much tech savvy, and that is the barrier to entry, I would say, in the online transactional nature. That's true. Nishchal, what are your thoughts?
Yep. So again, I think if we look at the market from two different lenses, we'll see that it's going to happen big time in one area and not so much in the other area. So I'm thinking business travel is primarily two major areas. So there is SME SMB travel, and then there is the corporate travel, right? Corporate travel is going to be hit big time. And that's I'm not just saying that from personal experience or from the conversations I've been having with a lot of people, but also if you look at I know it's not a very good indicator, but if you look at the stock market, you will see how a lot of the stocks that are going drastically down are those who directly correlate with a lot of revenue coming from the corporate travel industry. So the SME SMB industry, their business travel might just come back to the regular normal levels very soon. Why? Because in an SME, in a smaller organization, there are fewer decision makers. There are fewer issues when it comes to regulations and health issues. There are fewer cost impacts. So if I'm a micro entrepreneur, if I've got a manufacturing unit in a different country, if I've got some trade relations to take care of, if I'm a 15, 20, 30 odd member team, right? And I'm not really a corporate enterprise. In that case, I might be traveling myself. And I'm not thinking too much about it. And I might be traveling with one of my VPs or my other manufacturing heads, right? So I have to go there, I have to do this deal, I have to come back. For my industry, probably Zoom doesn't work because even though we are trying to make it work, the other person is not that comfortable with an Airmeet like a platform or a virtual event kind of platform. So what I'm saying is in the SME SMB industry, definitely, as Snehal said, the revival will be a lot quicker because fewer decision makers, fewer regulatory and safety hassles. On the corporate side, it's going to be a much more difficult journey. Why? There is junior management, there is mid management, there is senior and leadership management, right? For the senior management, the risk is too much. They'll always come back and say, I don't need to travel. If I can do this remotely, I will do this remotely because it's not really worth the risk to my life, right? For the mid management, the cost is not justifiable. For a lot of enterprises, what they're realizing already is 90% of my meetings, which require cross-country travel, can be done online. And if that can be done, why should I save money, especially when the time is right, right? In these days where anyhow companies are either bleeding money or not growing as much as they would hope to, or they're at risk of completely losing their market share, they would try and save money wherever they can. And corporate travel is a big expense for them. So senior management will refuse to travel. Mid management might just be okay with it because they don't have a lot of say in that, but companies might reduce the expense that they're doing on these people, right? And when it comes to junior management, again, it depends And when I say junior management, it could be more about sales reps. It could be more about on-field teams of sorts, right? And from them, because they're generating new business, maybe companies would be okay with it, okay with their travel. But what it really means is that the big chunk of heavy investment that used to go into business class seats and top-level reward points and five-star hotels and luxury experiences, all of that is going to go out very soon. I mean, it's already out. It's not going to come back anytime soon, is what I'm trying to say. So SME business travel, it's going to get back to the regular levels very soon, because there's going to be very limited impact there in terms of what alternatives do I have. But corporate travel is going to be hit big time, especially if more and more companies go fully remote. They will understand that even stuff like, so, just to give an example, we're experimenting with a lot of different formats, stuff like virtual board meetings happening on Airmeet, right? So if something like a virtual board meeting happens there, it proves to you that the most important meeting in a corporate enterprise company can be done remotely. So that sets the way for everything else, right? So that's where I feel this business travel is going to go.
Makes a lot of sense. Yes, welcome back, Kiran. Yeah, so I'll be moving to people's question in now. The next question we have from Rakesh Kushwaha is, how will the tourism industry build the good and trust relation between tourist and service provider after this pandemic situation? So yeah, Kiran, you want to start with? It would be great.
Sure. I think, in fact, the trust is going to be really, really crucial right now. And if you're seeing, right, there's going to be a natural gravitation towards the larger brands and the larger. See, what is trust, right? What essentially does trust mean? It means that not only do you expect a certain level of standards in terms of service, but it also means that if something goes wrong, how well are you taken care of? I think that's an equally important component of trust, especially when it comes to travel. I think post this pandemic, that's going to become even more crucial. Especially, you'll see a gravitation towards the larger brands, the larger companies. So there might be a lot of consolidation. And unless brands are able to etch out a very clear position for themselves in the market, which they're able to communicate well to the client, they're going to really, really struggle, I think. So I think this is really about making sure that people understand what you stand for, you deliver that correctly, and if you do, people will trust you. There will be enough people who will talk about you, and it will work for you. Smaller companies will find it hard unless they're able to etch a niche for themselves, is what I think of, the way I look at it.
Makes sense, makes sense. Snehal, what is your take on the same?
Yeah, so two things. I mean, again, the countries should be more transparent about, what are the numbers and everything that should be uploaded, and it should be connected to the various dashboards. So that transparency needs to be there and always needs to be there. The second bit is, what we have seen is companies wanting to filter out, hotel chains, by, let's say, the cleanliness or how they're advertising, how good they are, right? So people might not prefer 1-star or 2-star hotels now. People would gravitate more towards, Hilton and Marriott, who are marketing heavily how safer they are. And also these hotel chains, probably as they are adapting with the new cleaning norms and setting up new processes around that, they can probably reduce the clutter in the room and things like that. So everyone needs to adapt in the end. And, so there has to be from the, let's say, the supplier side, there has to be more emphasis on the safety. And from the government side, I expect like more transparency and more clear, alerts and advisories on the dashboards. Yeah.
Makes sense. Nishchal, what do you think?
See, I've been a big proponent of transparency and trust for the biggest time. And to the extent that my last startup, we had our entire pricing broken down on our website very transparently. You could see where our cost is going and how much money we are making in terms of profit, how much our salaries are, how much our margin is, right? So I'm a big proponent of transparency. And I feel the only way anything in the world is going to move forward is through more transparency in your internal process and what kind of business you're running, right? Because, in the digital age, people have access to information, and more importantly, information spreads really fast. So if you're trying to pull something off, you might not be able to get away with it for the longest time. And especially in today's world where health and health scare is like a big factor for a lot of people. The only way to build trust is by being absolutely transparent with what are the possibilities. I've seen some people coming right out and saying, you want to do this, you do it. I'm not sure if you'll come back 100% COVID free or not. So even saying that to your customer might just give them the kind of trust on you, that saying, okay, this guy is not lying to me. At least they would be truthful about all the other things as well. So I feel the only way you could build sort of like trust in today's world is being absolutely transparent about what's right, what's not right, what are the risks involved, and let the customer make the wise choice, right? Empower the customer instead of trying to get away with them, trying to sneak something through them. It has happened a lot, right? I have personally been in situations where the kind of packages being sold to you, they were promised something and you got something else when you arrived at the destination, right? That kind of thing cannot happen anymore, simply because there's a much bigger problem attached to it. Earlier, it was simply about selling product A and giving fewer services to make enough margin on that. But now it's going to come back to bite you in a much bigger manner. So it's very important that your pricing, your services, your entire flow of information is transparent to the huge extent. And I think that's the most I can add to it right now.
That's true. Steve, what do you think for the same?
Well, I don't know that I have a lot to add, because I think transparency is it's a cornerstone of the response. So the word that was in my mind was communication, and so I've been kind of going through this whole pandemic in the UK, and the UK has not done a very good job of managing its response to it on like every level. Almost, I would say really not done a great job, and a lot of that comes around communication. Certainly around trust and transparency, they've not earned that. They've burned that actually throughout this. It's really been difficult to watch, and so I think that is if I look at the difference between, say, that and New Zealand, where it was a methodical approach in the response, but in how things were communicated, and there was a it wasn't sugar-coated. It wasn't, we're going to say this to make everyone feel better. We're going to give the tough truths that we're going to give them when you need to. And what that means is the next time I believe you if you say it's okay or it's okay enough. I think we will all get more resilient, and we will all get, I think in the early days, there was definitely a blind panic, right? We didn't know how big, how far, how bad. So I think as we get used to it, we get really good at adapting as a species. So I think we'll be more willing to kind of branch out, but we will need that communication and trust with our partners, whether that's in government or in industry.
Makes sense. So thank you so much. So we are moving in last like 10-12 minutes for the session. I have 3 questions for you. It's just a one-word question. So it's like you have to answer in one word. There are 3 questions, rapid fire. Maybe if the time allows, we'll take one more question after that from the audience. We have a lot of them coming. You can feel free to answer them out there on the chat as well, because they are tagging you constantly. So you can. Yes.
Sorry, just one second. I just want to add very quickly here, right? So very interesting thing that we can also do, if you guys are okay with it. There's this raise hand functionality, right? So you can actually bring someone from the audience onto the stage. So if someone comes on the stage and they want to ask a question live, that's also possible.
Definitely, we can. Actually, that was a plan after this, that let's do 3 questions and let's have one raise hand out of that. So yeah, we already have one. Let's take that first. Vidur wants to come in. So yeah, I'll just have a check. I guess Kushal would have to work out on it, bringing him on the stage, the host.
Yeah, the host can just click on accept request.
Yeah, okay. We'll just wait for it because he will be joining in and doing the same. Till then, we'll get our 3 questions started. Yeah, okay. Kushal is here, I guess.
I think we have Vidur on.
Yeah. Vidur is here. Perfect.
Thank you so much for adding me. My question is for Nishchal, guys. So Nishchal mentioned that you offer premium services to budget travelers. My question is, how do you do that? Because travel costs are going to increase a lot, substantially, especially with the new hygiene factors coming into play. So when these additional costs are coming in, budget travelers will face these costs. So how do you give them premium services?
See, I'm going to say a few things that might paint me as the wrong kind of marketer here. But since we are here, I hope it's a closed environment. I'll just share a few tips. So the first thing is, when your cost increase on one front, you try and manage it from the other side, right? So hygiene costs of travel will go up, but that will also help you get substantial amount of discounts from properties that are being unused right now. There are plenty of properties which are less than 10% occupied right now, so they might be willing to give you a higher amount of discount at the same seasonal level. So even if the coming up season from September to January onwards is like the high travel season, the cost will not be the same as what's expected from the previous year. So you might be so on your end operationally, you might be able to balance the hygiene cost with the operational cost and probably come at a similar level of cost, right? The second thing is, from a budget traveler's perspective, what has my year been like so far? I haven't been able to plan any of my travel or vacation plans anyhow, so I might be a little bit eager to go out. Second, I have been stuck in my house for almost 4 or 5, 6 months with my family, so it's been a mess for me. I really want that break, so there's a huge motivation factor for me. Third, because of COVID, as long as I didn't probably suffer an impact on my job or my business, I should have saved a lot more money compared to my previous year, right? Because I was spending a lot less money. I wasn't going out. I wasn't eating out. I probably wasn't spending as much money on leisure activities and entertainment as I was last year. So I might have a higher budget this time, right? And more importantly, I'm at a point where, as a budget seeker, I'm also a discount or a value seeker. If I'm being told that Nishchal, the same package that was going to cost you X amount of money last year is going to cost you differently this time, simply because the demand is much lower, right? Going to Dubai in December is going to cost me a bomb, but going to Dubai in December this year might not cost me a bomb. So those are the different marketing messaging tactics that you could probably employ to get the person to convert, right? You're trying, so of course, like, it has to happen on both ends. You have to operationally balance your cost, the higher hygiene and safety cost, with a lower operational expense as well. You might also be able to get extended credits from a lot of your vendors, because business is so low that you might be able to extend that credit slightly more. So operational efficiencies on your end, and then different messaging tactics. You're not selling Bali anymore. Now you're selling a safe destination for your family that's still going to be a lot more cost effective than it was last year. And because I know that you saved a lot more money this year, you might be able to okay with spending, like, let's say 5 or 10% extra on that. So those are the top things that I can think of right now, but happy to chat more after this event, and maybe we can catch maybe you can catch me on the social lounge after this.
Great, that makes sense. Thank you so much for that, Nishchal. Appreciate your time.
Thank you so much, Vidar, for coming up on the stage. Thank you. Great. So moving into last 5-7 minutes of the conversation, quick 3 questions, quick 3 answers from everyone. So first question being, in one word, tell me one biggest challenge as a traveler you will be facing. You can go with, like, just jump in and mute your mic.
Face mask.
Okay, Kiran.
I think honestly, face mask is the biggest problem all of us are going to face. I want to use the same answer if that's okay.
No, you don't get to use the same answer. You jump in first.
Carrying sanitizers, I guess. I don't know.
Snehal, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, ensuring that you don't touch too many surfaces. I mean, that's like everyone's now cautious about, whether you are touching some touch screen, or whether you'll be using the tray while actually in flight, or the restroom and during flights. So all those things, constantly carrying wipes and then sanitizing surfaces, but that's gonna be the norm. So yeah, I mean, that's.
Steve, how about you?
What's the question again?
Question is, in one word, one biggest challenge you will be facing while traveling.
Maybe loneliness.
That's a nice one. Second question, in one word, tell me the biggest trend in travel industry you're gonna see this year.
Again, face masks. Fancier face masks. So I'm going to Paris. I'll have a face mask with Eiffel Tower on it.
Kiran.
Staycations, yeah. I mean, that's been the biggest trend I've seen in the last 3 months, and I think that's going to continue till the end of the year. Staycations for sure.
Snehal.
Yeah, again, from corporate travel side, I mean, companies would want to now monitor and track each and every trip, and they would like to pull the travel histories of the employees which are traveling to say that they don't affect, anyone else. So, those things. A lot of basically technology adoption on the company side, even at the assembly level.
Steve, how about you?
Responsible travel.
Makes sense. Last question in one word, one critical change you will be bringing in yourself while traveling.
Slower.
Okay.
Yep, absolutely. Slower and less people.
Great.
Stay
Kiran?
as
Yeah, I think, fundamentally, honestly, at my end, I'm even questioning the need for the kind of travel that we used to do in the past. So apart from holidays, of course, which is a completely different reason, business travel is something I'm questioning all the time. Because I think we've learned that a lot can be accomplished without traveling. And I mean, a platform like Airmeet, for example, or so many other tools that we've used have really been instrumental in that, to that end. So questioning travel all the time is going to be a big thing that we're going to do always.
Makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. So yeah, that has been a wonderful time so far. I hope you guys have enjoyed. It's last 3 minutes for the session, and I just just in a sentence or so your takeaway from the session or something you would like to tell audience. Steve, would you like to start with the same?
Hold the faith. We will travel again. It might look a little different. It might be with different people. But I think that desire and need to explore our world won't go away, won't be contained. It just might look a little different.
Nishchal, how about you?
Yep. So just one input from my side, which is that remember, travel is two things. It's the commute and it's the destination. The scariest part for most people is the commute right now. It's not really the destination, right? So if you're trying to get back on your feet, what you have to try and do is create some sort of a service or a product which has minimum commute and maximum time at the destination, which is a slow form of travel, right? And always remember that because remote work is so much on the rise, there are so many more people, like compared to same time last year, there's probably like 4 or 5x more people who are working remotely today. What that means is there's a whole new market out there of people who are not traveling for a vacation. They're traveling because they have their work together. So, Steve is the expert on that because his place, Hubud in Bali, is just amazing. I've been there myself a couple of times, and I think that's really the way to go. So think of travel in a way where people are spending less time on airplanes, they're spending more time at the destination, and they're not running around to cover like 50 things in 5 days. They're probably just going there to stay for a month. Why? Because their job is with them. They're not spending money, they're earning money at the same time. So if my salary is still coming in, and I am shifting from a place like New Delhi or all the way to Bali or Dubai, it's probably just going to cost me 15 or 20% extra to live there for a month. So that's a whole different market that you can think of. And the best part is, with every major disaster, there's always the opportunity to rebuild the industry from scratch. So you might be able to tap into some sort of phenomena that no one has been thinking of so far. And because a lot of traditional industries and a lot of traditional companies are still stuck on their business models, you might be able to reinvent the business model and pull off something entirely new. So always think that there's going to be a better way.
Makes sense. Kiran.
Nishchal really stole the words out of my mouth. I stayed for 72 days in a remote region of Maharashtra when the lockdown happened, and I worked as efficiently as I could work from anywhere else, except that I was in the midst and lap of nature. So that really taught me something that I had never really imagined. A concept like Hubud, for example, or what Nishchal is talking about, slow travel, is something I really discovered, and I think that to me has been the biggest takeaway for this entire period. But going forward, I think the biggest thing that we can do all as people in this industry is constantly question ourselves on what's important and what's not. Constantly question ourselves on our systems and processes and see where we can improve. Because while people are not traveling right now, travel is not dead. So this is the time to actually invest and to come back stronger rather than wait for 6 months when travel picks up and then start building your concepts. This is time to innovate, build new ideas, maybe in your company, with new companies, whatever that might be, but this is the time to innovate, question and learn. I think that's a great opportunity for us.
True. Snehal, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, same. I agree with Nishchal and Kiran, what they said. So, see, I mean, travel is a massive $9 trillion industry. Business travel is 1.5. It's not going to just go away in thin air. So, the thing is, this is a transformational moment. It's a time to reinvent, and we should actually look at it as a problem solving, create some new innovative solution to actually make things, reach to the original norm. I mean, to the norm much faster. So, I mean, it's an opportunity, right? I mean, that's what as entrepreneurs and as problem solvers, I mean, we strive to do. Yeah.
Great. So thank you so much, guys. Also, there is live chat. If you guys just want to put up your details, if someone can reach out to you on Instagram or something, feel free to do that. And yeah, you would see us in social lounge around. So thank you so much for everyone joining the session as well. It's been amazing so far. Also, just a quick note for attendees, please, you can choose the link for the next sessions out there in the session and you can attend any one of that. So yeah, it would be starting in around 10ish more minutes. Feel free to join in, feel free to catch us up in the social launch. And thank you so much, guys, for being there. Thank you so much. I hope everyone enjoyed it. Thank you so much, all the speakers. Have a great day ahead. Bye-bye.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, see you. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.